Have you ever wanted to try hand sewing something, but you didn't know where to start? In this series, we'll show you what needle to use, what stitches are best for what, how to use a thimble, everything you need to know to hand sew. This is Hand Sewing 101. All right, now we come to the scary part of sewing with shears. How do you hem this thing? Now, you hem it just like anything else. You just roll the hem and do a blind stitch. But you see, even sitting here in front of you, trying to get it to roll is very painful. It's very fiddly because it keeps wanting to pop out of your grip. If this were a nice little piece of linen, I just put a crease in it, it would stay there forever. But with this slippery, slippery silk, I'm constantly fighting with it. And it stresses me out. And then I have to hold it in my thumb and ring finger at the bottom, and between my index and middle finger at the top, and hold it like that. And you want to really stretch it between those 2 points so that it's drum tight in the middle, so that when you sew a stitch, you know, you're working on, it's nice and doesn't go wobbly because you're holding it stiffly. And where did I put my needle? There's my needle. My needle and thread are gargantually big today because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. This is some ridiculous darning needle or something that I found somewhere, mostly on the floor in the bottom of Bob's foot because he always picks up my needles that way. Isn't he kind? And buttonhole gimp, which is really thick thread that you would never use on something sheer. But I'm using it because I want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go between the fold and the bottom fabric. And just to be clear, this is the wrong side of the fabric. Put all my stitches on the wrong side of the fabric so you don't see them on the outside. And I'm going to pull my knot through there. Now that looks like a big nasty knot, but you have to have a big nasty knot somewhere. And then tuck it underneath there with your needle as best you can. And then I'm going to go into the fabric here. I'm going to move a little down here. I don't know. You can see better. I'm just going to prick a couple of little threads there in the bottom fabric. And prick a couple little threads. I didn't quite get them. In the top fabric, right across from each other. And go like that. Do it again. I'll come up closer. Maybe you can see it. I hope my camera is autofocusing because I can't really tell. I put my finger underneath it and I actually prick the tip of my finger when I do this. So I take a couple little threads from the bottom fabric and a couple little threads from the edge of that fold. Just as few as I can get away with. Go like that. Just keep doing it. And if you have to readjust to tuck your fraying threads in, do so. And it's rather stressful because, as you learned in the posture video, you're not going to lean on your elbows and you're not going to want to put this much stress on your hands, but you really have to be careful because you don't want your stitches to show on the outside. And you want to make sure you're going horizontally like that and not like this. And I'll show you the difference. If I make a stitch, if I go in here and I come out up here, I'll show you the difference on the right side. You see, even though I'm using big black nasty fabric, nasty thread, there's only a little dot. See that dot, dot, dot? Those are the threads that went when the needle was horizontal. This is the thread from when the needle went kind of vertically or diagonally. So you don't want that. You want these little dots. And obviously when you're sewing, you're going to be using a similar color thread to your fabric, so you won't even see this much. But just to show you, you know, big heavy black thread on white sheer silk, and I still only see little bits like that. I don't see this big huge stitch because I sewed it properly. And of course I let it go so my roll has come out. And one of the things that happens when you're roll hemming stuff is you'll get lazy. And I mean, you're not lazy, but you get tired is what you get. And then your roll will get bigger and bigger and bigger as you go along. And that's not very nice, because then you come back to the end and this is really nice and fine. And then this, you've got like an inch hem like that. And you don't want that. So I'll tell you how to avoid that. Is you go like this. Yes, I have just spit on my fabric. Yep, put it in my mouth. Put it in my mouth, and that little bit of moisture, look how it sticks to itself. Look at that. Look at that. I almost don't have to roll it at all. I can just give it the tiniest little bit of twist, and it rolls up. Look how tiny. Look how tiny that hem is. Look at that. Look how tiny. From sticking it in your mouth. And, don't get skeeved out by sticking it in your mouth. It's your clothes. You were talking before about it wasn't yours until you bleed on it, and now you're afraid to spit on it? Don't be afraid to spit on it. You're going to sweat in this thing. I mean, it's yours. Spit on it. So, but do not, dear friends, do not stick it in your mouth if you're wearing dark lipstick. Your humble servant here wears a lot of dark lipstick and has ruined many a lovely piece of white silk by sticking the damn thing in her mouth and forgetting that she was wearing her Besame blood red, dark red lipstick and got greasy, almost black lipstick all over the bloody thing. So anyway, so you lick it. If you lick it, you just stick it in your mouth and lick it. Or, if you're going to be fastidious, you can get a spray bottle of water and give it a little spritz, but wet it. And then you can roll into this tiny, tiny little roll. And then you can make the tiniest, look how small the stitches can be. Look how tiny. And of course, the smaller you make your stitches, the finer your hem's going to be. The better it'll hold together, the less wavy it will be, because each stitch you take makes a little pucker. So the more stitches you take, the puckers are closer together and you don't notice them as much. So look how beautiful. Look, and all you had to do was stick it in your damn mouth. All you had to do was stick it in your gob. So that's lovely. That makes me wish I stuck the whole hem in my mouth. I didn't. I suffered. But that's how you do a very, very fine roll hem on shears or very fine fabrics. Just stick it in your mouth, and it rolls so beautifully. Rolls like that. Makes those lovely little stitches and lovely little tiny hem. And if you're hemming something like a veil or a cap, you really want it to be that fine. So there you go. The secret to hemming shears. Stick it in your gob.